The world ended in a way I never expected. Not with a bang, not with a vote, not with a scandal splashed across the headlines. It ended with a scream echoing down the marble halls of power, and the sound of fingernails clawing at my office door. I am Senator Mark Klein, and this is how I did not survive the first 12 hours of the zombie outbreak. You never forget the first time you hear a city scream, especially when you are the one who helped build its cage. I always thought the end of the world would come with warning. Maybe a press conference, a secret memo, a coded message slipped across my desk. But when it came, it was just another Monday. The city outside my window was a mosaic of glass and steel, the sun glinting off the river, the traffic crawling like ants. I was in my office on the 42nd floor, surrounded by mahogany leather, and the quiet hum of power. My phone buzzed. Another alert. I ignored it. I had more important things to do, like counting the cases of bottled water stacked in my private bathroom, or checking the locks on the reinforced door. I had always been a planner. That is how you survive in politics. That is how you win. But you cannot plan for the dead. The first sirens started around 9:15. At first, I thought it was just another protest. Maybe the nurses' union, maybe the teachers. They always found something to shout about. I sipped my coffee and watched the news ticker scroll across the bottom of the muted television. Unrest in downtown district. Reports of violence. Stay indoors. I smirked. Stay indoors. That was easy for me. I had everything I needed right here. Food, water, a private generator, even a panic button wired straight to the building's security team. I was untouchable, or so I thought. A knock at the door. Not a polite one. Heavy, urgent. My aide, Julia, poked her head in, her face pale. "Senator Klein, you need to see this," she said, voice trembling. I waved her off. "I am busy, Julia. Tell security to handle it." She did not move. "Sir, it is on every channel. People are attacking each other, biting. The mayor is missing. They are saying it is some kind of infection." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I turned up the volume on the television. The anchor's voice was shaking. Behind her, the live feed showed chaos, people running. Blood on the pavement, police barricades buckling under the weight of a surging crowd. I stood up, my heart pounding. "Get the security chief on the line. Now." Julia nodded and disappeared. I locked the door behind her. My hands were sweating. I wiped them on my suit and tried to steady my breathing. The city outside was changing. I could see smoke rising from the financial district. Helicopters buzzed overhead, their searchlights sweeping the streets. Somewhere far below, a car alarm wailed, then cut off abruptly. My phone rang. It was the security chief, Ramirez. "Senator, we have a situation," he said, voice clipped. "The lobby is compromised. We are locking down the elevators. I suggest you stay put." I swallowed hard. "How bad is it?" A pause. "Worse than you think. People are turning on each other. Some of them, they do not die. They just keep coming." I stared at my reflection in the window. For the first time, I saw fear in my own eyes. "Do not let anyone in," I said. "No one." not even staff. Understood. Yes, sir. I hung up and turned back to my supplies. I had enough food for a month. Enough water for 2. I had a pistol in my desk drawer, loaded and ready. I had always thought I would use it on a would-be assassin, or maybe a blackmailer. Not on the dead. The hours crawled by. The city outside descended into madness. I watched as the streets emptied, then filled again with shambling figures. I heard gunshots, screams, the distant thump of explosions. My phone buzzed with desperate messages, constituents begging for help, colleagues demanding answers, my own wife asking if I was safe. I ignored them all. I was safe. I was always safe. Or so I thought. A sudden crash jolted me from my thoughts. The building shook. The lights flickered. I heard shouting in the hallway, security, maybe, or survivors trying to break in. I pressed my ear to the door and listened. They are coming up the stairs. We have to hold them. Gunfire. Screams. Something heavy slammed against the wall. I stumbled back, heart racing. I realized, for the first time, that my fortress was just a cage. And the city outside was hungry. I looked at the door. I looked at the pistol in my hand. And I wondered how long could I really last. A shadow moved under the door. Fingers, slick with blood, scraped at the wood. Someone or something was trying to get in. And I was trapped, 42 floors above the ground, with nowhere left to run, when the world falls apart. The locks you trust most are the first to betray you. The scratching at my office door grew louder. It was not frantic, not wild, just steady, methodical, like someone testing the strength of the wood, searching for a weakness. I pressed my back against the far wall, pistol trembling in my grip. My mind raced through every scenario I had ever prepared. 4 scandals, riots, assassination attempts. But nothing like this. I tried to steady my breathing. The air in the office felt thick, heavy with the scent of leather and fear. I could hear my own heartbeat, thudding in my ears. I glanced at the security monitor on my desk. Luxury I had insisted on, back when I thought I could control everything. The feed showed chaos in the hallways. Bodies, some moving, some not, littered the marble floors. Blood smeared across the walls. My staff, my security, my people. Gone? A voice crackled through the intercom. It was Ramirez, the security chief. His voice was strained, desperate. Senator Klein, are you there? Answer me. I lunged for the button. I am here. What is happening out there? A pause. Then, we lost the lobby. They broke through the glass. Some of them are infected. They do not feel pain. They do not stop. We are falling back to the executive floor. Stay in your office. Do not open the door for anyone. I swallowed hard. How many of you are left? Another pause. 3, maybe 4. I do not know. We are running out of ammo. If you have a weapon, keep it close. The line went dead. I stared at the intercom, willing it to come back to life. But all I heard was static. I turned back to the door. The scratching had stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. I crept closer, pistol raised, and peered through the peephole. A single bloodshot eye stared back at me. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the gun. My mind reeled. Was it one of my staff? A survivor? Or something else? I forced myself to look again. The eye was gone. In its place, a smear of blood, a handprint sliding down the frosted glass. I backed away, heart pounding. I needed a plan. I needed to get out. But how? The elevators were dead. The stairwells were full of them. I was trapped. I paced the room, searching for options. The windows were reinforced, but maybe, just maybe, I could break one and climb down to the balcony below. It was a long shot, but it was better than waiting to die. I grabbed a chair and smashed it against the glass. The window shuddered, but held. I tried again, harder. A hairline crack appeared. I hit it again, and again, until my arms ached and sweat dripped down my face. Finally, the glass gave way, with a deafening crash. Shards rained down onto the balcony below. Cold air rushed in, carrying the distant sounds of sirens and screams. I peered over the edge. The drop was dizzying, at least 20 feet to the next balcony. My hands shook as I tied my silk tie around the window frame, hoping it would hold my weight. I had never been good at knots. That was always someone else's job. I took a deep breath, swung my legs over the edge, and began to lower myself down. The city looked different from up here, smaller, fragile. I could see fires burning in the distance, smoke curling into the sky. I could hear the chaos car horns, gunshots, the low guttural moans of the infected. My foot slipped. I dangled for a moment, heart in my throat, before I managed to swing onto the balcony below. I collapsed, gasping, my suit torn and bloody. I looked up. My office window was a jagged hole, the curtains fluttering in the wind. I had made it out. For now, but I was not alone. A figure stepped onto the balcony from the neighboring office. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a security uniform stained with blood. Ramirez. He raised his pistol, eyes wild. Senator. Over here. I stumbled to my feet, relief flooding through me. Ramirez. Thank God. Are you all right? He shook his head. No one is all right, sir. We need to move. The infected are everywhere. We have to get to the roof. There is a helipad. Maybe we can signal for help. I nodded, adrenaline surging. Lead the way. We moved quickly, ducking through shattered offices and empty hallways. The building groaned around us, the air thick with the smell of smoke and death. Every shadow seemed to move. Every sound made me flinch. We reached the stairwell. Ramirez peered inside, gun raised. Clear. For now. We started up the stairs, boots echoing on the concrete. I tried not to look at the bodies slumped against the walls, their faces twisted in agony. Some of them wore suits. Some wore security uniforms. All of them had the same empty, hungry eyes. We reached the top floor. The door to the roof was locked. Ramirez cursed under his breath. I need your keycard, sir. I fumbled in my pocket, hands shaking, and handed it over. He swiped it. The light turned green. He pushed the door open, and froze. I peered over his shoulder. The roof was not empty. Group of survivors huddled near the helipad, faces pale, eyes wide with terror. Among them, I recognized Julia, my aide. She was clutching a radio, her hands stained with blood. She saw me and screamed, "Senator! Behind you!" I spun around. A figure lunged from the shadows, jaws snapping, eyes wild with hunger. Ramirez fired. The gunshot echoed across the rooftop. The infected fell, twitching, inches from my feet. But more were coming, climbing the stairs, pouring onto the roof, their moans rising into a chorus of death. We were surrounded. When you are cornered, you finally see who is truly on your side, and who is just waiting for you to fall. The rooftop was chaos. The wind whipped at my face, carrying the stench of burning fuel and something far worse: rot, blood, fear. The city below was a war zone, sirens wailing, fires blooming in the night. But up here, the only thing that mattered was survival. Ramirez's gunshot echoed, and the infected body at my feet twitched, then stilled. But the sound had drawn more. I could hear them pounding up the stairwell, their guttural moans growing louder. Closer. Julia rushed to my side, her eyes wide with terror. "Senator, we have to get out of here. The radio is dead. No one is coming." I grabbed her arm, desperate. "There has to be a way. The helipad can. We fly out." She shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. "The pilot is gone. He tried to take off, but they got him." The chopper crashed 2 blocks away. Ramirez fired another shot, dropping an infected security guard who staggered onto the roof. "We cannot hold this position," he barked. "We need to barricade the door. Now." The other survivors, 3 staffers and a janitor, scrambled to drag a metal toolbox and a bench in front of the stairwell door. I helped, my hands slick with sweat, my heart hammering. Every thud against the door sent a jolt of panic through me. For a moment, we had a fragile barrier. The infected pounded on the other side, their fists thudding like a drumbeat of doom. I looked around, searching for options. The roof was wide, ringed by a low wall, and a few scattered maintenance sheds. The city lights flickered below, but up here, we were alone, trapped between the sky and the dead. Ramirez checked his ammo. 6 rounds left, he muttered. "Make them count." Julia clung to my arm. "Senator, what do we do?" I tried to sound confident, but my voice shook. "We wait. Someone will come. The National Guard, the police, someone." The janitor, a wiry man named Pete, shook his head. "No one is coming, sir. I heard the radio before it died. The whole city is falling. They are bombing the bridges. No one is getting out." I stared at him, the truth settling like a stone in my gut. All my power, all my connections useless. Up here, I was just another body waiting to be claimed. The pounding on the door grew louder. The metal bench rattled. I could see the fear in everyone's eyes. Ramirez looked at me, his face grim. "If they break through, we are finished. We need another way down." I scanned the edge of the roof. There was a maintenance ladder bolted to the far wall, leading down to the mechanical floors. It was a long drop, but it might be our only chance. I pointed. "There. The ladder. We can climb down, get to the parking garage. Maybe find a car." Ramirez nodded. "Move. Now." We sprinted across the roof, the wind howling around us. Julia slipped, and I caught her, pulling her to her feet. The others followed, eyes darting, breaths ragged. We reached the ladder. Ramirez went first, his gun drawn. He waved us down, one by one. I hesitated, looking back at the barricaded door. The pounding had become frantic, the metal buckling. Julia tugged my sleeve. "Senator, please." I swallowed my pride and started down the ladder, the rungs cold and slick beneath my hands. The city spun below me, dizzying and vast. I tried not to look down. Halfway down, a scream tore through the night. I looked up. One of the staffers had slipped, his grip failing. He plummeted past me, hitting the concrete below with a sickening thud. Julia sobbed, clinging to the ladder. I forced myself to keep moving. Every muscle trembling, we reached the mechanical floor, a maze of pipes, vents, and humming machinery. The air was hot, thick with the smell of oil and ozone. Shadows danced in the flickering emergency lights. Ramirez led the way, gun raised. "Stay close. Do not make a sound." We crept through the maze, every footstep echoing. Somewhere above, the barricade finally gave way. I heard the infected pour onto the roof, their howls echoing down the shaft. We ducked into a maintenance closet, slamming the door behind us. Ramirez wedged a pipe under the handle, his face pale. For a moment, we were safe. The infected thundered past, oblivious to our hiding place. Julia collapsed against the wall, sobbing. "We are not going to make it, are we?" I knelt beside her, trying to muster some comfort. "We will. We have to." But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Ramirez checked his gun, then looked at me. "Senator, you have a keycard for the executive garage, right?" I nodded, fumbling in my pocket. "Yes." "Why?" He leaned in, voice low. "We get to the garage, we find a car, we drive out. It is our only shot." I handed him the card, my hands shaking. "You lead." "I will follow." He nodded, eyes hard. "Stay close. And if you see one of them, do not hesitate." I nodded, swallowing my fear. We slipped out of the closet, moving through the shadows. The infected were everywhere now, their moans echoing through the building. We crept down a service stairwell, every step a gamble. At the bottom, we reached the garage door. Ramirez swiped the card. The light turned green. He pushed the door open, and froze. The garage was full of infected. Dozens of them, wandering between the cars. Their eyes glazed, jaws working. We were trapped. Ramirez turned to me, his voice barely a whisper. "We cannot go back. We cannot go forward." "What now, Senator?" And for the first time, I had no answer. When you have always been the one giving orders, what do you do when no one is left to listen? The garage was a nightmare. The infected shuffled between the rows of luxury cars, their movements jerky and unnatural. Some dragged broken limbs. Others left trails of blood behind them. The overhead lights flickered, casting everything in a sickly, stuttering glow. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering. Julia whimpered beside me, her hands clamped over her mouth. Ramirez scanned the garage, his jaw clenched, finger tight on the trigger. We could not go back. The infected were pouring into the building above us, their moans echoing down the stairwell. We could not go forward. The garage was a death trap. For a moment, I just stood there, paralyzed. All my life, I had been the one with the answers. The one who made the calls, pulled the strings, decided who lived and who fell. But now, every decision felt like a coin toss with death. Ramirez leaned in, his voice barely a whisper. We need a distraction. Something to draw them away from the exit. I nodded, swallowing hard. The car alarms. If we set one off, maybe they will follow the sound. He glanced at me, surprised. That could work. But someone has to get close enough to trigger it. I looked at Julia. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Please, do not make me. I held up my hands. No one is making anyone do anything. We will figure this out. But even as I said it, I knew someone had to go. Someone had to risk it. Ramirez took a deep breath. I will do it. Cover me. He slipped into the shadows, moving low and fast. I watched, breath held, as he crept between the cars. The infected did not notice him yet. He reached a black SUV, smashed the window with his elbow, and slammed his fist on the horn. The alarm blared, echoing through the garage. Instantly, the infected turned, drawn by the noise. Ramirez ducked behind the car as the horde surged toward the sound. He waved at us, signaling to move. I grabbed Julia's hand. Now, go. We sprinted along the wall, keeping low. My legs burned, my lungs screamed, but I did not stop. The exit was just ahead, a heavy steel door marked staff only. I swiped my key. The light turned red. No, 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 I fumbled, swiping again. This time, the light turned green. The door clicked open. We slipped inside, slamming the door behind us. I jammed a metal rod through the handle, praying it would hold. Ramirez appeared a moment later, breathless and sweating. We made it. For now. We found ourselves in a narrow service corridor, the walls lined with pipes and electrical panels. The air was hot, thick with the smell of oil and fear. Julia collapsed against the wall, sobbing. I cannot do this. I cannot. I knelt beside her, trying to sound strong. You can. We all can. We just have to keep moving. But my words felt hollow, even to me. Ramirez checked his gun. 3 rounds left. We need to find another way out. The main exits will be swarming. I nodded, forcing myself to think. There is a loading dock at the back of the building. It is usually locked, but I have a master key. He nodded. Lead the way. We moved through the maze of corridors, every step a gamble. The building groaned around us, the sounds of chaos muffled but ever present. I could hear the infected pounding on doors, their moans echoing through the vents. We reached the loading dock. The heavy metal door was chained shut from the outside. Ramirez cursed. We need to cut the chain. I looked around, desperate. There a fire axe mounted on the wall. I grabbed it, hands shaking, and swung at the chain. Sparks flew. I swung again, harder. The chain snapped, the door creaking open. Fresh air rushed in, cool and sharp. For a moment, I almost believed we were safe. We stepped outside, into the alley. The city was unrecognizable, fires burning, sirens wailing, the sky choked with smoke. The infected wandered the streets, drawn to any sound, any movement. Ramirez led us down the alley, keeping to the shadows. Julia clung to my arm, her breath ragged. We reached the end of the alley and peered around the corner. The street was chaos, cars, abandoned bodies in the road, the infected everywhere. Ramirez turned to me. We need a plan. Fast. I looked at the city I had ruled, the city I had betrayed. Now it was just another battlefield, and I was just another casualty waiting to happen. I tried to think. Tried to remember every escape route, every hidden passage, every favor I had ever called in. But nothing mattered now. Not power. Not money. Not even my name. Just survival. I looked at Ramirez. We head for the river. If we can make it to the docks, maybe we can find a boat. He nodded. It is a long shot. But it is all we have. We slipped into the street, moving fast and low. The infected were everywhere, but we kept to the shadows, hearts pounding, every sense on high alert. We were almost to the next block when a voice rang out, a desperate, angry shout. Hey! Over here! Help us! A group of survivors stumbled from a side street, waving their arms. The infected turned, drawn by the noise. Ramirez grabbed my arm. We have to go. Now. But I hesitated, torn between saving myself and saving them. The infected surged toward the survivors, their screams echoing through the night. I stood frozen, caught between guilt and fear, as the city I once controlled slipped further into chaos. When the world is ending, trust is the first thing to die. I stood frozen in the alley, the screams of the survivors echoing off the brick walls. The infected swarmed toward them, drawn by their desperate cries. Julia tugged at my sleeve, her eyes pleading. Ramirez's jaw was set, his gaze locked on the chaos. "Senator, we have to move," he hissed. "We cannot save everyone." But I could not look away. I saw a mother clutching her child, a man waving a broken pipe, a teenager sobbing as the infected closed in. For a moment, I saw their faces I had seen at rallies, in town halls, in the voting booths. Faces that had once looked to me for hope. Now, they looked to me for help. I took a step forward, guilt gnawing at my insides. We have to do something. Ramirez grabbed my arm, hard. If we go out there, we die. You want to be a hero, Senator? Or do you want to live? His words stung. I had never been a hero. I had always been a survivor. But now, survival felt like cowardice. Julia's voice was barely a whisper. "Please, Mark. We cannot leave them." I looked at her, at the fear and hope in her eyes. I looked at Ramirez, at the cold calculation in his, and I looked at the street, at the chaos I had helped create. I made my choice. "Cover me," I said, my voice shaking. "I am going." Before Ramirez could stop me, I darted into the street, waving my arms. "This way. Over here." The survivor saw me and stumbled toward the alley. Ramirez fired his last 2 rounds, dropping 2 infected that got too close. The rest of the horde turned, their dead eyes locking onto us. "Move!" Ramirez shouted. We sprinted back down the alley. The survivors closed behind. The infected followed, their moans rising into a fever pitch. We reached a chain-link fence at the end of the alley. Ramirez boosted Julia over, then the mother and her child. I scrambled up, my suit tearing on the metal. The others followed, panic giving them strength. On the other side, we collapsed in a heap, gasping for breath. The infected slammed against the fence, their fingers clawing through the gaps. For a moment, we were safe. The survivors huddled together, eyes wide with terror. The mother sobbed, clutching her child. The teenager stared at me, his face pale. "Thank you," he whispered. I nodded, too shaken to speak. Ramirez reloaded his gun with a single bullet he had saved. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "You risked all our lives for them." I met his gaze, anger flaring. "They are people. They deserve a chance." He shook his head. "You still think like a politician. Out here, that will get us all killed." Julia stepped between us, her voice trembling. "We need to keep moving. The river is not far." We moved through the back streets, keeping to the shadows. The city was a graveyard. Nalkers abandoned, windows shattered, the air thick with smoke and fear. Every sound made us jump. Every shadow hid a threat. As we moved, I felt the weight of every decision pressing down on me. I had spent my life making deals, cutting corners, looking out for myself. But now, every choice was life or death, not just for me, but for everyone around me. We reached the edge of the financial district. The river glimmered in the distance, black and cold. The docks were just ahead. But as we approached, Ramirez slowed, his eyes scanning the darkness. "Something is wrong," he muttered. I followed his gaze. The docks were crowded not with survivors, but with more infected. Dozens of them, swaying in the moonlight, their faces blank. We ducked behind a dumpster, hearts pounding. "We cannot go that way," Julia whispered. Ramirez nodded. "We need another route." The mother clutched her child, her voice shaking. "Please, we cannot go back." I tried to think, tried to remember the city's layout. There was a service tunnel beneath the docks, a maintenance passage that led to the old ferry terminal. It was risky, but it might be our only chance. I told the group. Ramirez nodded, grudging respect in his eyes. "Lead the way, Senator." We moved quickly, slipping through the shadows. The entrance to the tunnel was hidden behind a stack of crates. I pried open the rusted door, the hinges screaming in protest. We slipped inside, the darkness swallowing us. The tunnel was cold, damp, the air thick with the smell of mold and decay. Our footsteps echoed, every sound magnified. Halfway through, we heard voices, angry, desperate. "Give us your supplies. Now." A group of armed survivors blocked the passage, their faces twisted with fear and hunger. They raised their weapons, eyes wild. Ramirez stepped forward, gun raised. "Back off. We do not want trouble." The leader, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, sneered. "You have food, water. We need it more than you." I stepped forward, trying to sound calm. "We can share. There is enough for everyone." He laughed, cold and bitter. "That is what you, politicians, always say. But when the world ends, you still think you are in charge." He raised his gun. The tunnel erupted in chaos, shouts, gunshots, the flash of steel in the dark. I dove for cover, heart pounding, as the world I once controlled slipped further from my grasp. In the dark, you learn what you are truly willing to do to survive on, what you can never take back. The tunnel exploded into chaos. Gunshots echoed off the concrete, deafening in the tight space. I hit the ground, the cold, wet floor soaking through my suit. Julia screamed. The mother shielded her child, pressing them both against the wall. Ramirez fired back, his last bullet finding its mark. One of the armed survivors dropped, clutching his side. The rest surged forward, desperate. What? The leader with the scar lunged at me, swinging a rusted pipe. I scrambled back, my heart hammering, the world narrowing to the glint of metal and the stink of sweat and fear. Give me the bag. He snarled, grabbing at my supplies. I held on, panic giving me strength. Let go. There is enough for everyone. He slammed me against the wall, his breath hot in my face. You do not get it, do you? Out here, it is every man for himself. Ramirez tackled him from behind, knocking him to the ground. The two men struggled, grunting and cursing. The other survivors, my group and theirs, watched, frozen, too terrified to move. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the chaos, a low, guttural moan. The infected had found us. They poured into the tunnel, their eyes empty, jaws snapping. The armed survivors turned, firing wildly. Bullets ricocheted off the walls, sparks flying. Run! Ramirez shouted. I grabbed Julia's hand and pulled her down the tunnel. The mother and her child followed, the teenager close behind. Behind us, the infected swarmed the others, screams echoing in the darkness. We ran, feet pounding, lungs burning. The tunnel twisted and turned, the air growing colder, damper. My legs ached, my vision blurred, but I did not stop. We burst out into the old ferry terminal, the doors hanging off their hinges. The river stretched out before us, black and endless. The docks were empty, the boats either gone or smashed to pieces. I collapsed against a pillar, gasping for breath. Julia fell beside me, sobbing. The mother clutched her child, rocking back and forth. The teenager stared at the water, his face blank. Ramirez staggered in last, blood on his sleeve. He looked at me, his eyes hard. You almost got us killed back there. I glared at him, anger and guilt warring inside me. I was trying to help. We cannot just leave people to die. He shook his head. You still do not get it. Out here, helping people gets you killed. I looked away, unable to meet his gaze. The truth was, I did not know what was right anymore. Every choice felt wrong. Every decision cost something. The city burned behind us, the sky glowing orange. The infected wandered the streets, their moans drifting across the water. The world I had known was gone, replaced by something savage and unforgiving. Julia wiped her eyes, her voice small. What do we do now? I stared at the river, searching for answers. We find a way across. There has to be a boat, a raft, something. Ramirez checked the docks, moving with the wary caution of a hunted animal. The mother and her child huddled together, shivering in the cold. The teenager finally spoke, his voice hollow. Why did this happen? Why did no one warn us? I had no answer. I thought of all the warnings I had ignored, all the reports I had buried, all the people I had failed. I thought of the power I had clung to, the money I had hoarded, the lives I had traded for votes, and I realized, with a sickening certainty, that this was my fault. Not just the outbreak, but the chaos, the fear, the desperation. I had built a world where people looked out for themselves, where trust was a weakness, where survival was a game. Now, I was just another player, and I was losing. Ramirez returned, shaking his head. No boats. The docks are empty. Julia's shoulders slumped. The mother began to cry, her sobs muffled by her child's hair. I looked at the water, at the city burning behind us, at the people I had tried and failed to save. For the first time, I felt truly alone. A distant explosion lit up the sky, the shockwave rattling the windows. The infected on the far shore turned, drawn by the noise. Ramirez looked at me, his voice flat. "We cannot stay here. We need to move." I nodded, forcing myself to stand. "There is a bridge upriver. If we can make it, maybe we can cross." He nodded. "It is a long shot, but it is all we have." We moved along the waterfront, keeping to the shadows. The city was a maze of fire and ruin, the infected everywhere. Every step was a risk. Every breath was borrowed time. As we moved, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me. I had spent my life climbing to the top, stepping on anyone who got in my way. Now, at the end of the world, I was just another man running from the dead. And I wondered, was this what I deserved? As we reached the edge of the bridge, a new sound cut through the night. A helicopter. Low and close, its searchlight sweeping the ruins. Hope flared in my chest. But then I saw the infected, pouring onto the bridge from both sides, trapping us in the middle. There was nowhere left to run. When hope appears on the horizon, it is often just another shadow in the dark. The bridge stretched out before us, a skeleton of steel and concrete over black water. The city burned behind us, the flames reflected in the river below. The helicopter's searchlight swept across the ruins, a pale promise of rescue. For a moment, I let myself believe we might make it, but then I saw them, dozens, maybe hundreds, of infected pouring onto the bridge from both ends. Their moans rose in a terrible chorus, echoing off the girders. Their eyes locked on us, hungry and relentless. Julia clutched my arm, her voice trembling. "Mark, what do we do?" Ramirez scanned the bridge, his face grim. "We run. Fast. Stay together. Do not stop for anything." The mother hugged her child close, whispering words of comfort she did not believe. The teenager stared at the oncoming horde, frozen in terror. I forced myself to move, every muscle screaming in protest. We sprinted onto the bridge, the infected closing in from both sides. The helicopter hovered overhead, its searchlight flickering across our faces. I waved my arms, shouting, "Help! Down here! Please!" The pilot saw us. The chopper dipped lower, the wind from its blades whipping my hair into my eyes. For a heartbeat, hope surged in my chest. But then, the infected reached us. They came from both sides, a tidal wave of death. Ramirez fired his last bullet, dropping one, then swung his empty gun like a club. Julia screamed as an infected man lunged at her, his teeth snapping inches from her face. I grabbed a piece of rebar from the ground, swinging wildly. The world narrowed to blood and fear and the sound of my own ragged breathing. The mother fell, her child torn from her arms. The teenager vanished in the crush, his scream lost in the chaos. The helicopter hovered overhead, the searchlight blinding. I saw soldiers inside, their faces hard and cold. One of them raised a megaphone. "Stay where you are. Do not approach the aircraft." I stumbled, falling to my knees. The infected surged around me, their hands clawing at my suit, their jaws snapping. I fought them off, desperate, but there were too many. Ramirez grabbed my arm, hauling me to my feet. "Move, Senator. Move." We pushed forward, the infected closing in. Julia was ahead, her face streaked with tears, her hands covered in blood. The mother was gone. The teenager was gone. Only the three of us remained. The helicopter hovered just out of reach, the soldiers watching, unmoving. I screamed at them, my voice raw. "Help us. Please. We are not infected." But they did not move. They did not lower a rope. They did not fire a shot. They just watched. The infected pressed closer, their bodies a wall of hunger and death. Ramirez swung his gun, knocking one aside, but another grabbed his arm, sinking its teeth into his flesh. He screamed, shoving it away, blood pouring down his sleeve. Julia stumbled, falling to the ground. I reached for her, but the infected were everywhere. Their hands closing around my arms, my legs, my throat. The helicopter began to rise, the searchlight sweeping over us one last time. I saw the soldiers, faces cold, distant, untouched by the horror below, and then they were gone. The infected dragged me down, their teeth tearing at my flesh. I screamed, the sound lost in the chaos. Ramirez fell beside me, his eyes wide with pain and fear. Julia's hand reached for mine, her fingers slipping through my own. For a moment, time slowed. I saw the city burning, the river black and endless, the bridge a tomb of steel and blood. I thought of all the choices I had made, all the people I had betrayed, all the power I had hoarded. And I realized, in that final moment, that none of it mattered. Not money, not power, not even my name. All that mattered was survival. And I had failed. The infected closed in, their mouths open, their eyes empty. I felt their teeth sink into my skin, felt the world go dark. But even as I died, I wondered if I had made different choices, would any of this have changed? Or was this always how it was meant to end? As the darkness closed in, I heard Julia's voice, faint and desperate. "Mark, do not let go. Please." But her words faded, swallowed by the moans of the dead, and the roar of the helicopter, vanishing into the night. In your final moments, the truth is all that remains in. It is never what you want to hear. I do not remember the pain. Not really. I remember the cold, the weight of bodies pressing down, the taste of blood in my mouth. I remember Julia's hand slipping from mine, her scream echoing in my ears. I remember Ramirez's eyes, wide and wild, as the infected dragged him away. But the pain itself, it faded quickly, replaced by something worse - regret. I had always believed I would die in a hospital bed, old and powerful, my name etched in stone. I thought I would be remembered for the laws I passed, the deals I made, the empire I built. But here, on this bridge, surrounded by the dead, I realized how small I truly was. The world did not care about my titles. The infected did not care about my money. The city I had ruled for decades was burning, and I was just another body lost in the flames. I tried to crawl away, but my strength was gone. My vision blurred, the world spinning. I heard the helicopter fading into the distance, the soldiers abandoning us to our fate. I wondered if they would remember my name, or if I would just be another casualty in a world gone mad. Julia's voice drifted to me, soft and broken. "Mark, please, do not leave me." I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell her I was sorry for everything. For the lies, the greed, the cowardice. For all the times I put myself first. But my mouth would not work. My body was no longer mine. I felt the infection burning through my veins, cold and hot at the same time. My thoughts grew sluggish, my memories slipping away. I saw flashes of my life, my first campaign, my wife's smile, the night I won my seat in the Senate. I saw the faces of the people I had failed, the promises I had broken. And I saw the city, burning, falling, dying. I wondered if anyone would ever know the truth. If anyone would care. The infected moved on, their hunger never satisfied. The bridge grew quiet, the only sound, the crackle of distant fires, and the lapping of water below. I lay there, staring up at the sky, waiting for the end. But the end did not come. Not yet. I felt my body changing, my mind slipping away. The infection was inside me now, rewriting everything I was. My memories faded, replaced by hunger. My regrets faded, replaced by need. I tried to hold on to my name, to my past, to the man I had been. But it was like holding water in my hands. It slipped through my fingers, leaving nothing behind. I heard footsteps, soft, careful. Someone was moving among the bodies. I tried to call out, but my voice was gone. A young woman knelt beside me, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She looked at me, her eyes searching. Are you still in there?" she whispered. I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell her to run, to save herself. But all that came out was a low, guttural moan. She flinched, backing away. I saw the fear in her eyes, the same fear I had seen in so many others. She turned and ran, disappearing into the night. I was alone again. The infection took the rest of me, piece by piece. My thoughts faded. My memories vanished. All that remained was hunger. But somewhere, deep inside, a part of me still remembered. A part of me still knew what I had lost. I was Senator Mark Klein. I had power, money, everything a man could want. And in the end, it meant nothing. The city burned. The dead walked. And I was just another monster in the dark. Final reflection and closing. If you are new here, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. If you are enjoying it so far, it really helps the channel grow. And let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I would love to hear. What would you do if you were in my place? Would you have made different choices? Or does the end of the world reveal who we truly are? As the sun rose over the ruined city, I felt nothing. No fear. No hope. Just hunger. And that is how I did not survive the first 12 hours of the zombie outbreak. Let me know if you would like a bonus epilogue, alternate ending, or another story in this style.